Welcome back, everybody, to the G and Finn Show here on 92.1 FM Rebel Radio, coming to you live from very chilly right now, Oxford, Mississippi. My name is George Ruggiero.
And I'm John Finnegan.
How are you doing this evening, John? How's your week been?
You know what? It's been long, but we're finally towards the end of it. Series with Xavier coming up in baseball, very excited for. Basketball leaving a little bit to be desired, but...
That's a word for it. That is a word for it, certainly, when it comes to the basketball team. The Xavier first game, Friday night game, is actually going on right now. Do you have a quick update on that, just to get us started?
I think 10-0 last I checked, but let's see where we're at right now.
That was last I checked as well. I believe it was the 6th or 7th inning. Let me take a quick look.
Mid-6, Doug Nikhazy has walked two batters, has 9 strikeouts, throwing a no-hitter after 6.
Nice. That's what I like to hear. A bit of a bounce back for him after, I don't want to say a poor performance last week or just a week ago against Louisville. Do you just want to start with college baseball? It's going on right now, and just knock it out of the way. We have a really good show for you guys. We're going to talk some NBA. We usually don't talk, national basketball. We don't usually talk the association, but we're going to get into that a little bit today. But yeah, I think we should start with college baseball just because it's going on right now. I like to think that Ole Miss right now is off to a really hot start.
I mean, absolutely. They beat either the number 1 or number 2 team in the country, depending whose rankings you're looking at. Ole Miss coming in anywhere from around 16 to unranked before week 1, like going into the weekend series against Louisville. And, I mean, winning the series, that's incredible that Mike Bianco has done that 5 times against number 1 teams in opening series. He's never lost one at home. Not once.
Like, ever?
Ever.
Wow. I mean, and I'd like to think that this one is, I don't want to say especially exciting, but there's a little bit of a backstory to this with his son playing for Louisville, choosing Louisville over some of the other top college programs in the country, including his own.
And if you look, he also has a he's got a son at LSU as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
He's got a son on the team at LSU.
Plays down in the Bayou.
And my understanding is he didn't necessarily want them to come to his program, and they didn't necessarily want to go to his program just because it would have been a weird dynamic. They kind of wanted to do things independently. And it wound up working out. I mean, both great players at really great baseball schools.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that their decisions to go elsewhere, go somewhere other than Ole Miss or wherever their father is coaching, it's been working out great for them. LSU is one of the more successful programs in the SEC, and Louisville, well, they started off this year number 1 in the country.
Yeah, and returning probably the best rotation in college baseball.
I'd like to think so.
And a great series. Miami's playing this weekend as well, playing another top team. I can't recall which off the top of my head.
Who's that? Miami?
Miami.
Let me take a quick look. I'm not sure. I didn't do much digging for other schools.
Yeah, and you know what?
Let's take a look.
It's so early in the season
without
conference play. It's tough to even keep track of all the Ole Miss games. Looks like Doug Nikhazy his day is done after 96 pitches, 9 strikeouts, and no hits.
All right, let's take a look.
Off to a great start. It is still 10-0.
Ooh. Yeah, you're right. This should be a really interesting series this weekend. It's University of Miami, University of Florida. Florida coming in at number 2 in the country.
And Miami's what, 3?
As from what I can see, Miami, I don't know if they're ranked. Oh, according to this, we're on their, of course I'm on their website, so they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But according to this, they're number 1 right now. There might have been a shift in the rankings.
Anyway,
I mean,
I'm sure they're both top 5 teams in the country.
Yes, let's just stop it at that. They're both very good teams. They're both top of the nation.
That's going to be exciting. We also play every ranked team in the SEC, of which there are 10 this year.
Wow. That's... Honestly, I think that almost might be a more impressive record than the SEC's football record.
Because
to me, the SEC...
It really is.
That's the thing. The SEC is always regarded, it's such a great football conference. There's always going to be a top team or two from basketball. And the only ones that really come to mind from baseball, typically, I don't mean always or every year. Typically, the only ones that come to mind for baseball are Vanderbilt and Arkansas. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I could put LSU in there too.
I agree, but for me, that's kind of a thing where LSU plays really well in spurts. Every couple of years, they're going to have a really good year or two, and then it's kind of back towards the middle of the SEC, and then they get back towards the top. Whereas the only two that seem to be really consistently at that top level are Vanderbilt and Arkansas.
I think that's absolutely fair to say, honestly.
But this year, this seems like it's going to be a great baseball year in the SEC.
It's hard not to get excited. This is kind of a team where we really didn't know what we had. We graduated a number 1 recruiting class and brought in a number 1 recruiting class. So it really just depends on how well the freshmen fit into the system. But looks like, especially the JUCO guys. The JUCO guys
yeah.
I could not be more impressed with. And the freshmen not getting off to a terrible start either.
No, certainly not.
We'll figure out our lineup, see where the guys can slot in, but a lot of different guys are getting starts. A lot of different guys are getting at-bats, so I'm excited to see kind of how we fit everybody in.
And I think a lot of that's going to come down to just where Coach Bianco looks at the lineup kind of on a day-to-day basis, whether he's doing, a lefty-righty kind of deal with it. But, who's really impressed you in this really young season so far?
I mean, one name really pops out to me, Cale Baker.
Oh, yes.
Co-ACC Player of the Week, hit .417 on the weekend with a double, 2 bombs for 5 RBIs on the weekend. He nearly hit for the cycle in one game, except the triple was another home run.
Yeah.
And that was in the Saturday game, and it was incredible. But named Co-SEC Player of the Week for that. I was also very excited by Hayden Dunhurst, one of the top JUCO?
No.
One of the
coming out
top
of high school.
freshman catchers in the country coming into this year. Excellent arm. Long line of great catchers at Ole Miss. Coming in to fill the slot of Cooper Johnson. And to end the Louisville series, threw out a guy from his knees.
To me, that's almost one of the most impressive things in baseball when a catcher, that's not even showing off his pop time. That's just showing
pure arm strength.
Exactly, arm strength. And not just that, accuracy. It was just, as soon as he let go of that ball, I was like, that's on the money.
Yeah, it was
You
perfect.
saw it just
perfect.
right out of his hand. Beautiful.
And, it's really tough to walk off when you're on defense because that's not how baseball works.
No, that was a walk-off play
that was a
right
walk-off
there.
defensive play. Strikeout throwout is fantastic. Survived a really weird game.
Yeah, it was.
It's a really weird game. Our first ever game against Alcorn State wound up being a walk-off home run by Servideo. Who else? That was a weird game. They had something like 14 hits, but they also had 4 errors. Frankly, their 4 errors were the only reason we were in the game that long.
I don't know what it was, whether it was the pitching staff just not getting it going. Because the way that it turned out, it seemed more of a bullpen day than anything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these midweek games are going to turn into bullpen-style days where, you've got your 3 starters, your 3 weekend starters, and each of them have been impressive in their own ways for me. Like, what I was going to say, one of the players that really stuck out to me so far this season, Gunnar Hoglund was incredible last Saturday.
Yeah, he was fantastic.
So good.
It took us a long time to score in that game. We didn't score until the 7th inning, I don't think. I think we might have scored 1 run before the 7th inning, and he kept us in that game the entire time. If we couldn't score, they'd put it up, but they'd hold them right there and give us a chance to come back.
I mean, it's kind of just a shame for him that he didn't get the win on that game, but scoring in baseball is funky. Austin Miller ends up getting that win. And, I mean, even the pitcher for Sunday's game, excuse me, the bump day, Derek Diamond, what a start for him, too. He is new here, right? Or has he been here? I thought so. The name doesn't
I got to say he's
out.
new, but anyway, he's a new contributor to the team, whether or not he was on it. But honestly, that start came as a surprise to me. He was a guy that I sort of assumed was getting put in that role because we had no other options. But I feel like he slotted in very well. I think he fits the Sunday role mold kind of nicely.
Yeah, he definitely throws some heat. I think they were saying... I was mostly listening to the radio station. Yes, I'm just checking now. Derek Diamond, 6'2", 200 pounds, freshman from Ramona, California. young
Man,
freshman.
Those California guys really like coming to Ole Miss for baseball.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. He's an IMC major, and turns out, I was listening to the radio cast, and Kellum was saying his normal fastball is in the low 90s.
As a freshman, that's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, right?
You know,
like, I mean, to have something like that. I mean, he was a draft pick by the Diamondbacks in the 40th round.
Yeah, I think we had something like
We have a couple good draft.
we had something
draft
like
picks.
4 picks in the top 80 or 90, something incredible like that. And we were something like the only school to have that. But we really do bring in a lot of just a stacked freshman and JUCO transfer roster. Former JUCO Player of the Year, Cale Baker.
Cale Baker, yeah. That's the thing. I looked at his numbers from his JUCO
He was
days.
batting like a casual, like 5'10".
It was ridiculous. I think his on base, like he got on base like every other time, or more than every other time that he stepped up to the plate.
Yeah,
Insanity.
His numbers looked like Tennessee Tech's numbers from 2018, where it's like batting average like 496.
Like he legitimately looked like Mike Trout should look.
Yeah,
Should we just like stick with baseball and just go into that? Because the thing is, with Ole Miss right now, the season's really young. We don't have a whole lot of storylines just yet, and right now we're just absolutely crushing Xavier.
that's kind of all we got. On
Yeah,
that
that's
for now.
kind of it for right now.
More updates as it develops through
Yes,
the season,
as,
of course.
Of course. And as this game goes on, I don't really see much changing against Xavier. They're not necessarily a huge baseball school. If this was basketball, I'd be a lot more worried for Ole Miss. But going up 11-0, not too worried, really. I don't really have much else other than that.
But speaking of a young season, the MLB season hasn't even started
Yeah.
yet. Spring training is just now getting started the past few days and the upcoming weeks. But the Astros thing just keeps on going.
I don't want to say I'm tired of talking about it.
I'm
I'm a little bit tired of talking about it, but there's so many interesting things and so much craziness going on with this one situation. It's encapsulating so much of baseball right now.
And the more you learn about it and the more you look into it if you choose to, the more complex you realize it is. You never really figure out everything about it. You just realize how much more complex it is. But it's a whole ordeal.
There's just so much going on with it from
And
start to finish.
A lot
It's
of
weird.
notable players speaking out. Mike Trout, who's probably the best player in baseball.
I'd like to think so. He's also quiet. Is why it's so weird that he's, speaking out like this.
A lot of guys who aren't particularly outspoken and played a little more closer to chest are speaking out, like Mike Trout. He was like saying in an interview how much fun he thought he'd have if he knew which pitches were coming.
I mean, I don't want to say that he would, be breaking records left and right if he knew what pitches were coming. But I feel like he'd be breaking records left and right if he knew what pitches were coming.
Yeah, he absolutely would. He could do that without knowing it sometimes.
Yeah. How many home runs do you think he'd hit a year if he knew what pitches were getting thrown to him?
It'd be like the Derby.
Like,
It would be like the Derby. No one would pitch to him.
no, that's what it is. That's what I'm saying. It would probably end up looking more like Barry Bonds than anything else.
Yeah, where if he where if he went to the plate and didn't swing the bat the entire time, he would still have like 40 RBIs.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. He'd end up hitting 50 bombs and like 52 RBIs with like 150 walks a season or something like that. I mean, that's what happened with Barry Bonds. And I mean, if Trout knew what pitches were coming, it'd probably end up like that. And another guy who's really quiet and had an outstanding season like that is Aaron Judge. And just from the interviews and everything he's saying, he's visibly distressed by a lot of what's going on with this Astros thing. Because, for one thing, he should have won that MVP.
Yeah,
That 2017 MVP, that's his.
Yeah, and you know what? I truthfully, I'm a Yankees fan. I want to get away from that bias. I try not to be biased. I probably am. I feel like even independent of the cheating scandal, he deserved that MVP award. But with the cheating scandal, like,
Come on.
it's just a shame.
And that's like, I don't blame you.
Yeah, and you see Judge just talking about, those guys didn't earn it. That's not what this sport's about.
And the thing is, he's so right. it's not. This isn't necessarily a problem just because it's the Astros. This is going to be a problem with all of baseball, and it's going to go so deep next season, this coming season.
Well, it's because there were no ramifications.
Exactly, and what's so interesting about the situation to me, and why a lot of it is so infuriating, is because of the system that's in place and the commissioner that's in place. I mean, did you see what Rob Manfred had to say this week?
He was miserable. I know people hate
Come
Goodell.
on.
People are starting to hate Manfred even more.
The thing is, when he goes out and says some of the stuff that he did this week, can you blame them?
He's just so tone deaf.
That's exactly what comes to mind when I think the first thing that comes to mind now with Manfred is, really? That's what you have to say? And if you didn't hear some of his comments, he got absolutely grilled for a good 30 minutes. It's a long interview. It's out there if you want to go listen. It's a really well-done interview, and he just gets absolutely grilled.
But you know what? He called the World Series trophy a piece of metal, said removing the title wouldn't do any good, when that title and that trophy is something that mean an immense amount to so many of the guys in the league. And he warned other teams against taking action into their own hands, whether it's just beaning guys or something else.
And thing is, I don't think people are going to get beaned as much anymore.
No, because they'd get ejected and fined more than any Astros player did.
Exactly, and that's what's so bad about this to me. But could you see something happening with, kind of like in the same way, I don't know if this was on purpose, don't come after me, but do you remember Chase Utley absolutely demolishing that Mets player, the Mets' old second baseman's leg, and then he just didn't get suspended for it?
Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's the situation where Noah Syndergaard threw behind him. He didn't hit him. He threw behind him. He threw well off and didn't hit him. And I think last week I might have misspoken. It wasn't Angel Hernandez who threw him out. It was... I can't remember his name. I'm so mad. But
I wish I could help you there, George.
yeah,
I really do.
I'll see if I can find it really quick, but that's the thing. Do you think something like that is a gesture that they could make, like throw behind them or well off the plate and say, look, you know that this is something that we want to do, but we're not going to risk our livelihoods just for that, just to show you what you did was wrong?
I don't think anything's going to happen. I think the consequences Manfred's made clear are going to be too severe for any individual to make a statement. Because, I mean, one pitcher hits one guy, it becomes a whole ordeal. Nobody else beans anybody else, just one dude got hit once. I don't think it's going to gain any traction. I wish it would. I really do. But I don't think it'll gain any traction.
I mean, that's the thing. You're not wrong. I don't think anything's going to happen, and it's really just disappointing because there's so much that should have happened and just won't. And part of that is from the other part of the statement that came from Manfred, and he said part of why he didn't want to suspend any of the Astros players is simply because he thinks that so many appeals would come in from the MLBPA, and the league would lose. It would lose all of them. It wouldn't be a situation of, we win one, we lose another. No.
They just would have flat out lost.
They would have lost
you know what?
every single one.
Would it have mattered if they wound up doing anything? Maybe not. Are people mad about it anyway? Absolutely. Do they deserve to be? I think so.
That's the thing. They deserve to be punished. The individual players deserve to be punished, especially when the report goes in and says this was a player-driven scheme. It's not as though this just came from up top.
Yeah, it's not like it indirectly helped the players. The players were executing it.
Exactly.
To directly help themselves. It wasn't really... It was less of an organizational thing, really.
And
I think at least some of the penalties needed to be individual.
and that's the thing. Of course,
Except on Garrett Cole.
Well, and for me, no, please don't punish Charlie Morton, please. But I kind of think that's enough about that. There were a couple other things, like what do you think of Big Papi calling Mike Fiers a snitch and that he shouldn't have done it?
Like,
is that
the moral of the story here?
Is that even more tone deaf, or almost more tone deaf than what Manfred had to say? Because that's got to be up there.
It's tough to top Manfred, but I'm tempted to say yes.
Is just because it's Big Papi?
Yeah, I think the messenger really does play a big part in it.
Yeah, that's fair. But seriously, and then just two other things I want to touch on this, and then we can move on. Can y'all, just in general, can people stop sending out death threats for stupid things? I mean, seriously, both Mike Fiers, who was the whistleblower, and then Josh Reddick, who's currently on the Astros and won a World Series, or won the 2017 World Series, they've both come out and said that they've gotten death threats?
And they're on different teams.
I mean,
like, they're on the different sides, and they're both getting death threats.
Like,
it's important. It's very important to the sport. It's not that important.
And I mean, well, that's the thing. It's not that important at all, because it's a sport. It's a game. And as I understand, this affects people's livelihoods and their money and things like that. But death threats? Come on. Just relax. Get some class. Come on. I think it's that simple. It's just, that's disrespectful, disgusting, and honestly, if you do something like that, I just don't think you should watch baseball. Or any sport for that matter. If you go that far.
Yeah. Honestly.
I think it's that simple.
Yeah. And you know what? Do we have anything else in baseball at this point?
Not that I can.
Teams starting to report for spring training.
Most of the teams are. Teams are getting ready to go to spring training. Either they're already at spring training, or that's all I've really seen is teams, getting after it and then getting in some work.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get into some NFL and some XFL in a bit. George, you want to take a quick break for our commercial?
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
We'll be right back after this.